Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Vrajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Girivaradhari Gopi Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Shata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhai Charanaravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajagacharya Stotra Shata Sri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaja Prabhupada Ki Jai Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 2, The Remembrance of Lord Krishna, text number 17. Dunoti Chetaha Smarataha Mama Etat Yat Aha Padau Abhivandya Pitroho Tata Amba Kamsat Uru Shankitanam Prasidatam Naha Akrita Nishkritinam Dhunoti cheta smarato mamaitad.
Smarato mamaita.
Dhunoti cheta smarato mamaitad.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Yadaha padavabhivandya pitroho.
Yadaha pitro.
Yadaha padavabhivandya pitroho.
Yadaha pitro.
Tatambakam sad urushankitanam.
Tatambakam sarusankitana.
Tatambakam sad urushankitanam.
Tatambakam sarusankitana.
Prasidatam no krita nishkritinam.
Sidatango krita niskritina.
Prasidatam no krita nishkritinam.
Sidatango krita niskritina.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Yadaha padavabhivandya pitroho.
Yadaha pitro.
Tatambakam sad urushankitanam.
Sarusankitana.
Prasidatam no krita nishkritinam.
Sidatam no krita niskritina.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Yadaha padavabhivandya pitroho.
Yadaha pitro.
Tatambakam sad urushankitanam.
Tatambakam sarusankitana.
Prasidatam no krita nishkritinam.
Sidatam no krita niskritina. Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Yadaha pada vabhivandya pitroho. Yadaha vabhivandya
Pitroho.
Tatambakam saduro sankitanam. Tatambakam saduro sankitanam. Prasidatam no krita niskritinam. Prasidatam no krita niskritinam.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Yadaha pada bhavivandya pitroho.
Yadaha pada vabhivandya pitroho.
Tatambakam sarusankitana.
Tatambakam saduro sankitanam.
Prasidatam no krita nishkritinam.
Prasidatam no krita niskritinam.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Dunoti cheta smarato
Mamaita.
Yad aha padav abhivanda pitroho.
Yadaha padavabhivandya pitroho.
Tatambakam saduru sankritanam.
Tatambakam saduro sankitanam.
Prasidatam no krita niskritinam.
Prasidatam no krita niskritinam.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Yadaha pada vabhivandya pitroho. Tatambakam saduro
Sadurushankitanam. Prasidatam no krita nishkritinam.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Yadaha pada vabhivandya pitroho.
Yadaha pada vabhivandya pitroho.
Tatambakam saduru sankitana.
Tatambakam sadurushankitanam.
Prasidatam no krita niskritina.
Prasidatam no krita
niskritinam.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita.
Dunoti cheta
cheta smarato mamaita.
Yadaha pada vabhivandya pitroho.
Yadaha padavabhivandya pitroho.
Tatambakam sadurishankitana.
Tatambakam sadurushankitanam.
Prasidatam no krita nishkritinam.
Prasidatam
No krita nishkritinam. Mataji's please.
Dunoti
Cheta smarato mamaita. Yadaha padavabhivandya pitroho. Tatambakam sadurushankitanam.
Prasidatam no krita niskritinam.
Kritinam.
Dunoti cheta smarato mamaita. Yadaha Bhavivandya Pitroho Tatam Vakam Sarushankitana
Prasidatam no krita nishkritinam Dunoti,
Dunoti,
it gives me pain.
it gives me pain.
Chetaha,
Chetaha,
heart.
heart.
Smarataha,
Smarataha,
while thinking of.
while thinking of.
Mama, my. Etat,
Etat,
this.
this.
Yat,
Yat,
as much as.
as much as.
Aham,
Aha,
said.
said.
Padau,
Padau,
feet.
feet.
Abhivandya,
Vandya,
worshipping.
worshipping.
Pitroho,
Pitroho,
of the parents.
the parents.
Tata,
Tata,
my dear father.
dear father.
Amba,
Amba,
my dear mother.
dear mother.
Kangsat,
Kangsat,
out of Kangsas.
Kamsas.
Uru,
Guru,
great.
great.
Shankitanam,
Dana,
of those who are afraid.
those who are afraid.
Prasidatam,
Prasidatam,
be pleased with.
be pleased with.
Naha,
Naha,
our. Akrita,
Akrita,
not executed.
not executed.
Nishkritinam,
Nishkritinam,
duties to serve you.
duties to serve you.
Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Lord Krishna begged pardon from his parents for their, Krishna's and Balaram's, inability to serve their feet, due to being away from home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, O mother, O father, please excuse us for this inability. All this behavior of the Lord gives me pain at heart. Purport. It appears that Lord Krishna and Baladeva were both very greatly afraid of Kamsa, and therefore they had to hide themselves. But if Lord Krishna and Baladeva are the Supreme Personality of Godhead, how was it possible that they were afraid of Kamsa? Is there any contradiction in such statements? Vasudeva, due to his great appreciation for Krishna, wanted to give him protection. He never thought that Krishna was the Supreme Lord and could protect himself. He thought of Krishna as his son. Because Vasudeva was a great devotee of the Lord, he did not like to think that Krishna might be killed like his other children. Morally, Vasudeva was bound to deliver Krishna to the hands of Kamsa because he had promised to turn over all his children. But out of his great love for Krishna, he broke his promise, and the Lord was very pleased with Vasudeva for his transcendental mentality. He did not wish to disturb the intense affection of Vasudeva, and thus he agreed to be carried by his father to the house of Nanda and Yashoda. And just to test the intense love of Vasudeva, Lord Krishna fell down in the waters of the Yamuna while his father was crossing the river. Vasudeva became mad after his child after he tried to recover him in the midst of the rising river. These are all glorified pastimes of the Lord, and there is no contradiction in such manifestations. Since Krishna is the Supreme Lord, he is never afraid of Kamsa, but to please his father, he agreed to be so. And the most brilliant part of his supreme character was that he begged pardon from his parents for being unable to serve their feet while absent from home because of fear of Kamsa. The Lord, whose lotus feet are worshipped by demigods like Brahma and Shiva, wanted to worship the feet of Vasudeva. Such instruction by the Lord to the world is quite appropriate. Even if one is the Supreme Lord, one must serve his parents. A son is indebted to his parents in so many ways, and it is the duty of the son to serve his parents, however great the son may be. Indirectly, Krishna wanted to teach the atheists who do not accept the Supreme Fatherhood of God, and they may learn from this action how much the Supreme Father has to be respected. Uddhava was simply struck with wonder by such glorious behavior of the Lord, and he was very sorry that he was unable to go with him. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakaramahim Dadati Swaparantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sarvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swamin Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namane Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpadrubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvi Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaisnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Dunoti Chetas Marato Mamaitad Yaraha Padavavivandya Pitroho Tatam Bakangsad Urushankitanam Prasidatam no Krita Nishkritinam. Lord Krishna begged pardon from his parents for their, Krishna and Balaram's, inability to serve their feet due to being away from home because of great fear of Kamsa. He said, O mother, O father, please excuse us for this inability. All this behavior of the Lord gives me pain at heart. So, honor thy mother and thy father. This is one of the 10 commandments. We're sitting here in a United Methodist church, so I figured we'd talk about the 10 commandments today. It's an interesting purport because Prabhupada gives a lot of importance to the indebtedness that every person has to his parents, which is being exemplified by Krishna himself. Krishna feeling regret that he was unable to spend his childhood years with his real or biological kind of parents, Vasudeva and Devaki. I think we all know the story that's narrated in Krishna book where Krishna was transported to Vrindavan right after his birth in order to be protected from Kamsa. And Prabhupada brings out a few points about that whole Leela in the purport itself. And the remembrance of this pastime and the remembrance of this mood that Krishna is exhibiting is bringing about ecstatic feelings in Uddhava, just remembering this. I mean, he's saying that all this behavior of the Lord gives me pain at heart, but we can understand that even the pain experienced by the pure devotees of the Lord is actually the topmost ecstasy. They're never actually falling from that platform of Satchit Ananda, specifically this Ananda feature. The pure devotees of the Lord, even in times where it appears that they're in distress, it's not like how we conditioned souls are feeling distress, and it's not a mundane feeling at all. And mundane means always full of suffering, full of ignorance, but spiritual means always full of bliss and full of happiness. So this is how we can understand the emotion of Uddhava upon remembrance of this feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Is an interesting feature of the Lord, and it's also relatable. We can relate to Krishna in this way because we all also have parents, and we all also are indebted to our parents. Of course, Krishna isn't indebted to anybody. He's Swarat, the very first verse of the Srimad Bhagavatam, the feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead of being Swarat or independent is given. And not only is he independent, but all other living beings and non-living beings, for that matter, are dependent upon him. Krishna says that Mattah parataram nanyat kinchirasti dhananjaya mai sarvamidam protam sutre manigana iva. That from me everything emanates and everything is ultimately resting on me like pearls are strung on a thread. So everything is actually dependent on Krishna, and Krishna isn't dependent on anything or anyone or at any time or any place. But nonetheless, he exhibits these pastimes in order for his devotees to relate with him, and in order for his devotees to share ecstatic, loving relationships with him. And what's the point of being God if you're not able to enjoy like this? What's the point? He's creating this world, and but anyways, on the topic of Christianity, on the topic of the 10 Commandments, this isn't really understood, even though we have rules like honor thy father and thy mother given in the Bible or in the Torah for that matter. Nobody knows why. I remember growing up, going to Baptist church at a really young age. I remember it so vividly because it made a really deep impression on me. My Sunday school teacher told me that if you follow this commandment and if you obey your parents, then you get a long life. where you'll be able to enjoy for a long time in this world. And I remember like being like, oh, like, okay. And like, I mean, like, for what it's worth, I tried to like live my life at least to a certain point until I started getting some other kind of contaminated intelligence, I guess, but trying to be a dutiful son, you know, not for the purpose of like any kind of spiritual benefit, but because I was told that, you know, you get material benefit from doing this, and you do. It's true. It's in the Vedas as well. Anyways, I don't want to go too tangential, but whenever we meet Indian Christians, I always like to tell them that Jesus went to India and he became a Vaishnava, and they get really bewildered by the whole thing, and they're like, what? No, like, no, he didn't. And like, no, like, they don't want to tell you that, because then that means that Jesus went and became a Hindu in India. But like, you know, that's actually what happened. Jesus was born, but then he went to India, and that's when he learned about God, because the spiritual culture in India, that's like the real thing. And then Jesus went and taught about God in the place that he was from. And anyways, it fries them out. But I was kind of looking into it, because there's no information about Jesus in his childhood. There's hardly any actually. One of the only statements of Jesus in his childhood was there's one, and it specifically stuck out to me, that it's just very briefly said that when Jesus was a young boy, he started becoming very strong. His physical body was becoming very strong. He was full of wisdom, and he was also very obedient to his parents. And this is like considered to be all the good qualities of like a young boy. But also, at the age of 12 years old, Jesus went missing for 3 days. This is mentioned in like Ephesians or something like that. He went missing for 3 days, and he was found sitting with the rabbis at the temple in Jerusalem, studying the Torah, I guess. So the higher principle of service to God was emphasized by Jesus, and this was, of course, exemplified by him in his later life. And I won't get too much into his time in India, because a lot of it's unknown. But even Prabhupada mentions that. Yeah, that there are places in India where there's records of a personality very similar to the descriptions of Jesus, who came there, and a saintly person, a God-conscious person, a son of God. Anyways, the point is that this is understood by pretty much any cultured civilization, and even non-cultured civilization for that matter. Like Aborigines and these like tribal types of people, they have a very strong culture of honoring their elders. This is kind of like prevalent in like human society, even in some animal society. I mean, obviously not so much, because there's not so much, like, they don't have any philosophy or anything like that, but different species, it seems like most of them, they're raised by their parents, and then they go off, and then there's like independence. This is real animal life, and this is kind of what's going on in like American society nowadays. It's just that, you accept the service from your parents for many years as you grow up, and then whenever you're like able to provide for yourself and do your own thing, completely neglect them, go off and do your own thing. And not only is it considered like okay for like as like the child to do this, and we're taught like that this is like fine and this is good. Also, the parents are convinced of this too. It's like, they try to like kick you out the door as soon as possible to go work, go and start your life and everything like that. And because of this, we have so many governmental programs in order to take care of like the old people, because like their children aren't taking care of them and everything, and like and so the taxes are always increasing. Anyways, so many problems come because of this culture is lacking of honoring thy mother and thy father. It's interesting, because the Krishna conscious perspective of family life is that actually these aren't our real parents. I mean, this is perfectly exemplified in the story of Chitraketu, with the son that came and then immediately was murdered by his envious wives, and then then he came back to life, and he spoke this philosophy of actually he's like, Chitraketu's like, my son, it's me, your father. He's like, which father? Like, I've had so many lives. I'm an eternal soul, and I'm going in so many different bodies, and in each different body I have a different set of parents. And So who are you? Who am I? Like, you don't even know who I am. You're calling me your son. You don't even know who I am. So this philosophy is there, and like in essence, the philosophy of Krishna consciousness is that the family, the so-called family that we are born into in this world, is not real in the sense that it's not an eternal. It's not something which is eternally inherent in ourself, and it's not something which is part of our very soul, because it's always changing. So for Prabhupada to say such a bold statement as, a son is indebted to his parents in so many ways, and it is the duty of the son to serve his parents, however great the son may be, it's a strong statement. But this is the Vedic culture. Even though we understand this philosophy, still, just how Krishna is exemplifying this behavior in order to give an example for atheistic people to follow, similarly, devotees are supposed to follow this culture as well. They're not just supposed to be irresponsible people who neglect those people who have given them service, maintained them for so many years, and etc., etc. In order to set an example for atheistic people, and in order to ultimately give them an attraction for the process of Krishna consciousness, for the culture of Krishna consciousness and the philosophy, then a devotee is meant to exemplify perfect culture and behavior. And this is strongly emphasized by Prabhupada in so many different ways in his books. And this is heavily neglected by many devotees in the society today. Without getting so much into that side of things, I wanted to also talk about some other instances of like Srila Prabhupada giving importance to like serving one's parents, because just recently, me and Rishi Kumar Prabhu, we made a visit to New Vrindavan. We were very fortunate to go there and associate with some very senior devotees, Prabhupada disciples there. There's one devotee there named Bana Bhatta Prabhu. He's the brother of Jagat Purush Prabhu in North Carolina. And yeah, Prabhupada disciple. Oh, you know him?
Yeah.
He's the best mridanga player I've ever heard in my life. Yeah, he's really ecstatic. Anyways, I could talk a lot about him. He was very inspiring. He had the opportunity to manage the 24-hour kirtan department in Vrindavan, and he decided that he was going to stay there. He decided he was going to take the service and he was going to do it. And he was there for like a week, and then his brother called him up and said, "Hey, our mother is leaving her body. She's not a devotee, by the way, and I think you should come here and take care of her until she leaves." And then he told me that he didn't say it on the phone, but he was thinking, what the heck? Like, I'm in Vrindavan, I'm doing this like service, kirtan in Vrindavan, you're in America, why don't you do it? You're also, her son. But anyways, he, under the guidance of his elder brother, he thought, okay, yeah, maybe I should. So he left his service in Vrindavan to go and do this thing, which he was thinking to be very mundane, very, just kind of a big waste of time, especially whenever he had an opportunity for such an amazing like service, But nonetheless, he went and he did this, and he like served his mother like a menial servant for like some years until she left her body. And while he was doing that, he had a lot of time to study Srila Prabhupada's books, and he got a different perspective because his relationship with his family was strained ever since him and his brother joined the movement back in the 1970s. He had other siblings, but they were all working and stuff in their karmis. And he was the only one that was really able to do it because he was a full-time devotee for his whole life. And anyways, while he was serving his mother, when she was leaving her body, he had a lot of time to study Prabhupada's books, and he had an opportunity to get a more holistic perspective on this. And he brought to light a purport in the Bhagavad Gita that it never clicked with me. I mean, I can't say that it clicked with me now, but when he read it, I was like, what? I've never heard this in my life. This is like, I've read Bhagavad Gita several times, and I've never heard Prabhupada speak like this. So this is from the famous verse in the 9th chapter. Pita hamasya jagato mata tata pita mahaha vedyam pavitram omkara riksama yajorivacha, where the Krishna is saying, I'm the father of the universe, I'm the mother, the support, and the grandsire. Mata tata pita maha. So in the purport, he's talking about parents. And of course, in the verse, Krishna is talking about how he's the supreme parent, he's the supreme Pitri, Mata, and everything. But he makes a really interesting point. So I'll just read just for a minute. Try to pay attention to this because I've never. Oh, do you want to put it up?
Yeah.
It's what is it? 9:17. It just blew my mind hearing this. Anyways, okay. So the entire cosmic manifestations, moving and non-moving, are manifested by different activities of Krishna's energy. In the material existence, we create different relationships with different living entities who are nothing but Krishna's marginal energy under the creation of Prakriti. Some of them appear as our father, mother, grandfather, creator, etc., but actually they are parts and parcels of Krishna. As such, these living entities who appear to be our father, mother, etc. are nothing but Krishna. That's like a pretty powerful statement.
Yeah, that's great.
All of these people who are appearing to be our parents and everything, for a pure devotee, they're seeing them as Krishna. And if it's not clear enough, like in that, Prabhupada goes on. In this verse, the word Data means creator. Not only are our father and mother parts and parcels of Krishna, but the creator, grandmother, and grandfather, etc. are also Krishna. He doesn't say that, of course he explains that they are the marginal potency of Krishna, but here he says that they are Krishna. And of course we understand that Sarvam, what is it? Vasudeva Sarvam Iti, that everything is Vasudeva. The pure devotee is able to see this, and specifically the Vaishnava is able to see how everything is Vasudeva, and not just how everything is one, homogeneous light or something like that. The Vaishnava is able to distinguish between the different energies of the Supreme Lord and see the marginal potency, the external potency, the internal potency, etc. But ultimately, the pure devotee sees how even these people are Krishna. And in his dealings with these people, he's able to still be Krishna conscious. For a conditioned living entity, his dealings and his service to and his service from people like his family members is completely mundane, and it does not give rise to love of Godhead at all. But for a devotee of the Lord who is seeing his family members as being expansions of Krishna's energy and as being non-different from Krishna, he's able to still be Krishna conscious even while giving up his service in Vrindavan and serving his dying mother in New Hampshire or something crazy like this. And I thought it was a really interesting point. He brought this up and he showed us how it's Prabhupada, right? Usually you would see something like this and be like, oh, this is kind of Mayavad, his grandmother and grandfather are also Krishna, but in some places Prabhupada writes like this. Of course, we should understand the context and everything. Okay, next sentence. Actually, any living entity being part and parcel of Krishna is Krishna. Isn't that crazy? We're reading Bhagavad Gita and everything, and when he was reading this, I was like, I don't think I've ever heard this before, Just right over my head. All the Vedas, therefore, only aim towards Krishna. Whatever we know through the Vedas. So anyways, it goes on to talking about the second half of the verse, Vedyam Pavitram Omkara. But, I just thought that was a really interesting point. And I kind of started thinking about my relationship with my family and everything like that. And especially whenever I was first starting to get into Krishna consciousness, that relationship became very strained. But as one progresses and becomes more mature in Krishna consciousness, it's important that we come to terms with the situation that we're in. Some of us here are fortunate enough to be born into a family of devotees, and their attachment for their family actually can bring about advancement in Krishna consciousness if their family is practicing and everything like that, and of course Kunti Devi also prays, even though her family is very Krishna the most Krishna conscious. She's also praying to break this mundane attachment, understanding them to be these. She's ultimately praying that she can see all of this as Krishna. She's ultimately praying to have the vision of not having this mundane conception of her family members, but having a Krishna conscious perspective of her family members and being attached to them in that way. So similarly, some devotees here are fortunate to have a position like that. But also, the fallen souls such as myself, being born in cow eating, culture, that can sum it up. Cow eating. I'm not going to go further. Just the fact that we're, Mlecha, brought up in Mlecha families, it's difficult to understand this, and it's difficult to understand how we can be Krishna consciousness and how we can be Krishna conscious and still have this perspective of our family, because especially in the beginning, you're just like, family is Maya, that's not my real family. I think most people go through that phase where they preach to their parents and tell them, you're not my real parents, and at least I did, and that was a huge mistake.
Oh, God.
Not recommended. But Prabhupada is giving importance to this aspect of real Vedic culture of serving one's parents. And this is given in the Shastra. I don't know the verse or the reference, but Prabhupada quotes it so many different times, specifically in regards to householder, how they have to do this Pancha Yajna, Panchasuna Yajna or something, where one is indebted to 5 different categories of living entities. One who takes birth is immediately from the very beginning indebted to his forefathers, because the body which his soul is being given residence is a product of their bodies, and so they can pay back. What's the right word? Anyways, they can pay back their indebtedness to their forefathers by performing this like Pitri Yajna, offering oblations or whatever, and doing this Pinda, offering Pinda and everything like that, Shraddha, and next we have the demigods. One is always indebted to the demigods because the demigods are providing the weather, and they're controlling all the different things, which ultimately we're taking service from them because we're using these, and whether we're using for Krishna's service or for our sense gratification. Also, we're indebted to the Bhuta, or all the living entities in general. Specifically, Prabhupada talks about how we're indebted to the animals, like the cows, who are very selflessly doing service for the human beings by providing milk products and things like this, and the plants, and specifically the animals, because the 5th one is there's another one, but one of the other ones is Nri, which means just like society in general, mankind in general, which we're taking service from. We're being born into a society. There's like a government system which has been set up by the society, and we take benefit from that. And then we have the rishis and sages who provide the Vedic literatures, and we can take advantage of these by studying the Shastra and making advancements in material and spiritual life because of them. And so we're indebted to these 5 different living entities, and in Vedic culture, one has to perform this Pancha Yajna in order to cancel out his indebtedness to these living entities. And it's something which just cannot be avoided. It's something that you can't avoid. And Krishna exemplifies this, even in his householder life. It's dutifully performing all these different rituals, ceremonies, and everything like that, just to make an example. What is meant to be done by devotees and non-devotees alike. So, anyways, there's more that could be said about that. Ultimately, and one of my favorite sections of the Srimad Bhagavatam is in the 6th canto with Daksha's sons, the Haryashvas. It was actually 2 different sets of sons. Was it like 1,000 each, or maybe more than 1,000 each? A ton of sons, one huge batch of sons. So Daksha is a Prajapati. His service is literally to create progeny in this world, to populate the whole universe. And one whole set of his sons, they were away performing austerities so that they can become good Prajapatis, good progenitors, powerful, creating dharmic offspring. Like they're performing tapasya, yajna, and everything like that. And then Narada Muni comes and preaches to them Krishna consciousness, brahmachari life, and everything like that. And they all go back to Godhead. And Daksha is just like, what the heck, this is my you're kind of like screwing me up right now, so he has a whole nother batch of sons. He tries again, and Narada does the same thing to them. And Daksha was completely fried out about the whole thing. He was so fried out with Narada Muni. And Prabhupada has a lot of really nectarian purports about how Daksha's mentality of being like kind of like
butthurt about the whole situation is still, the tradition of his mentality is still carrying on today for those who are materialistically minded, who are interested in worldly things like populating the world and stuff like that. And he talks about how to this day, the parents of the members of the Krishna consciousness movement have this same attitude where they're very envious of the whole thing. They're accusing ISKCON of, like brainwashing and, like, anyways, there were so many problems back then, but it's still going on. It doesn't seem like it's as bad today, but also there's not so many devotees joining off the streets as there was back then. And also the culture was a little different too. They had the whole hippie movement going on. And anyways, so that's an inspiring section of the Bhagavatam, which kind of helps to break our mundane attachment for things like feeling indebted to our parents. I remember in university, when I was going to college, I was so faithfully and religiously devoted to going home every single weekend and mowing the grass for my parents and my grandparents. And I spent so much money driving, like I would have to go hours and hours just to go. And then, so much, I was always, I couldn't hang out with friends and stuff like that. But it really, like I said, growing up and hearing that I was going to live long and enjoy a long life if I was, if I served my parents, that kind of, that, anyways, it was ingrained to me, for better or for worse. And of course, I remember after joining the ashram, it was one of my hang-ups was that I wasn't able to go and cut the grass at my parents' and my grandparents' house. I was like so mental about the whole thing. How am I going to explain to them that I'm not able to come and do this? How, they're going to be in distress because they might have to hire somebody to do it and unnecessarily spend money on this. And like I'm physically able to do it. I'm just not willing to do it right now. It's like, anyways, it's a very, very mundane example, but Krishna is also expressing this like kind of like regret to his parents. Ultimately, Krishna is in control of everything, and he and Balaram appeared in this world and immediately arranged things in such a way that they escaped from the Kamsa's prison house. So it seems like Krishna and Balaram are like scared of Kamsa, and this is going into the other part of this verse. Anyways, yeah, I think we get the picture about the whole parents thing. But yeah, this is a whole nother part of this verse is Uddhava is saying that Krishna left because he was in great fear of Kamsa. And Prabhupada said that it appears that they were greatly afraid of Kamsa and therefore they had to hide themselves. And to mundane vision, it kind of does seem like that, especially if we're here saying that Krishna is God and he's in control of everything and he's the most powerful. Why is he doing this? Why can't he just like appear and kill Kamsa on the spot? He can, but the point given by Srila Prabhupada in this verse is that in order to relish a relationship with his parents in a loving way, he performed this pastime of being scared of Kamsa so that they could really feel like that is their son and they have to protect him. And it's not that they're just pretending. Of course, in some ways, Krishna is just pretending. He's kind of just pretending, but he himself also allows himself to be under this yoga maya where he is also convinced that he's in danger. And he's also convinced that he needs the protection of his parents. Ultimately, this is all just a big drama put on by Krishna's internal potency. It is a big, magnificent, that's what Krishna Leela is. And it's kind of bewildering. It's really hard to understand, actually. Krishna, first thing he does when he appears in the prison house of Kamsa, how does he appear? Does anybody remember? Yeah, he's a four-handed Narayan form. And then, they literally have God here. They know that Narayan is God. They have to know. They're Vaishnavas, They have God sitting here. And they're praying to him, oh, please, hide this form, hide this form because we're scared that you're going to get noticed and killed by Kamsa. It's crazy. It's like Narayan, he can literally, he is killing everything in the universe, he is like death personified for the atheistic people. And yet they're really convinced that this is their son And they're not worried, they're not even really thinking so much about how this is Narayan right here. They're thinking, hide this form of yours, we need to protect you from Kamsa. And if he sees that, there's this 4-armed baby in here, he's going to try to kill you. And no wonder, already there was 7 sons which were killed before, right? 6 or 7? 7. There were 6, but then Balaram got transferred to the womb of Rohini, and then the Yogamaya came and was also, she wasn't necessarily killed, but Kamsa intended to, and then she kind of sobered him up a little bit. But anyways, Vasudeva was he already Kamsa killed 7 of his children, 6 of his children, so can you imagine, I always thought why would he keep having kids, But of course, it's providence, it's just it's the destiny. Also, it's the duty of a householder to have children, it's not like in this modern world. I know it's popular nowadays for people to get married and not even to have kids. They literally just get married and they just live their life, and they don't have kids because it's cheaper, it's easier, whatever it may be, and they still go and enjoy sex life and use contraceptives and everything like that. And this is completely adharmic, The household ashram is meant for this. So of course, Vasudeva and Devaki were doing their dharma, and they were so dharmic that he was willing to uphold his promise to Kamsa that he would turn in all of his sons that were born, knowing that Kamsa was just going to kill them anyways, But his love for Krishna overpowered that mundane dharma. What's that verse in this 2nd chapter of the Bhagavatam? There's a couple. Is talking about the real essence of one's dharma is to serve Krishna, and all other things are useless. What is it? How does it start? Dharmasya hyapavargasya narthorthayopakалpate narthasya dharmaikantasya kam hismritaha. There's another one too. Anyways, the principle is there that the devotees, they understand this, that if this so-called dharma, if their so-called participation in varnashram dharma is not giving rise to pure devotion to God, then it's considered to be useless. If it's, what is that? The Vishvaksena Katha Suyaha. How does that one start? Vishvaksena Katha Suyaha. Nodpadayad yadiratim shrama eva hi kevalam. If they're not developing rati for Vishvaksena Katha, what is that? Shrama eva hi kevalam. It's just useless labor. That's all it is. It's nothing but useless labor. Shrama eva hi kevalam. So this was understood by Vasudeva. So he gave up this so-called dharmic principle of wanting, of turning all of his sons in. He did it for all the other sons, but when Krishna came, he couldn't hold back. He couldn't keep putting on this big show. So he, of course, out of this feeling of protecting Krishna, he crosses the Yamuna, and Krishna's Yogamaya puts everybody to sleep and unlocks the shackles and everything, opens the gate and everything. And as far as I remember, this pastime of Krishna falling into the Yamuna is not given in the Bhagavatam or the Krishna book. Now, I heard this before, but I never heard it in Prabhupada's books, I don't think. Maybe in some other parts of Prabhupada's books, it's that the Yamuna, being a devotee of Krishna, couldn't wait to touch his lotus feet, that while they were crossing, the Yamuna rose and ultimately touched Krishna. But this Krishna falling into the water and increasing this fear and this dread of Vasudeva is all part of the pastimes to increase the love and the rasa experience between Vasudeva and Krishna, because it's a very special relationship that they have. Right from Krishna's infancy, Vasudeva is there, and he's in a situation where this baby boy is subject to be killed at any moment, and he's so devoted to him that he's willing to do anything and everything to protect him. So even falling into the river, he's freaking out. Like Prabhupada describes it like that, basically. That his father was crossing the river. Vasudeva became mad after his child as he tried to recover him in the midst of the rising river. I mean, we can only imagine what the emotions that he was feeling. So many times, those in similar relationships with Krishna, they feel this type of way about how like Krishna is dependent upon them and how if he's in danger, they need to do something. Specifically, what comes to mind is the pastime of Krishna's Kaliya Nritya Leela, where he's dancing, the whole like punishing Kaliya and everything. First, before the whole thing, some of the cows died, some of the cowherd boys appeared to be lifeless on the banks of the Yamuna, and then Krishna immediately like dives into there to go and rest and be the hero of the day and everything like that. And then upon hearing this, I think Balaram goes back to Vrindavan and tells the cowherd people about it or something, and then brings them back. I think I could be wrong. Anyways, the elder cowherd people in Vrindavan, they hear about this and they come to the scene, and Krishna's still underwater. I think it's said that he was there for hours, and they're freaking out. Specifically, Nanda and Yashoda, they're so scared for Krishna. They're so worried about him, and Nanda was getting ready to jump in. Nanda was getting ready to jump in the water to rescue him, but Balaram, he knew what was going on, and he's like, nah, just like chill. Everybody's freaking out. Balaram was kind of smiling because he knew what was going on, and he knew that Krishna, wasn't in any kind of danger. But nonetheless, this feeling is there. And specifically, like Rupa Goswami talks about this a lot in the Nectar of Devotion. It's a very subtle and complicated science. Ultimately, what is a science, but the mixing of rasas, and those which are favorable for some and not favorable for others. We have the 5 primary rasas: Shanta, Dasya, Vatsalya, Sakha, Madhurya, and he talked, and then there's the 7 secondary ones. I don't know the Sanskrit names for all of them. I might not even know all of them. I'll try. We can try to do it. We have like ghastliness, dread, laughter, chivalry. What is it? Does anybody know? Wouldn't be that hard to pull it up. Anyways, it doesn't matter so much. But it's a very complicated science, the mixing of these rasas. You have the 5 main ones, which are eternal, and then you have the 7 secondary ones, which are kind of adding some spice into the mix. And Rupa Goswami talks about how the secondary ones, they never overpower or overshadow the eternal. I forget what the specific word that he gives for it. Sthayi bhav? Sthayi, yeah. That eternal feeling. They don't overpower that. They add to it, and they kind of like gel with it in such a way that it increases that sthayi bhav, and then ultimately that secondary one merges in with that same kind of rasa. Anyways, it's very esoteric, very complicated, but specifically thinking about how this mood of like ghastliness and dread adds to this Vatsalya bhav of Krishna, of those in that relationship with Krishna, like Vasudeva, Devaki, Nanda and Yashoda, etc., etc. And of course, so many other devotees. It's not so much there with his cowherd boyfriends, though. I mean, you'll notice in the instance of Agasura, where like literally like Krishna wasn't even there yet, and the cowherd boys see this huge demon. They're talking about like, hey, it looks kind of like a big demon that came to like fight with Krishna or something, and then like, yeah, what's up with this? Anyways, Krishna's got our back. Let's just go inside of his mouth. It's like, what are you thinking? They're completely fearless in their relationship with Krishna. They know that he's always got them. And so it's just different. With different devotees, it's just different. And Rupa Goswami talks a lot about this rasabhas, where it's a really subtle thing, and it's for one who isn't really feeling those relationships and witnessing those relationships, and who is actually there, like how Prabhupada is fully absorbed in Krishna Leela and fully there. He can understand these types of things, but for conditioned souls, this tendency of rasabhas is like always there, and we're always like, it's like kind of like, me and Rishi we were reading this Nectar of Devotion, and we were talking about it a little bit, and talking about how like if you have like ice cream, and then you see somebody sprinkling some like little white crystal like thing on it, it looks like they're adding sugar to it, and you think, oh yeah, even sweeter, it's ice cream and it's becoming even sweeter, it's nectar, because we're looking at it. But for one who's tasting it, they know that actually what was being sprinkled on it is salt, and it doesn't go along with it at all whatsoever. So you have to taste the ice cream to like really know, is it favorable for the taste of the ice cream to add salt, or is it unfavorable? You can philosophically understand from a distance, but you don't really know until you're like really like tasting it. It's just a interesting point. But this fear is experienced by Krishna and his devotees, or it's experienced by Krishna's devotees, and that's kind of understandable. But is also experienced by Krishna. That's the point which is being brought out in this verse and purport, which is kind of like mind-blowing and bewildering, especially to conditioned souls. It's like, how can God be fearful? And Prabhupada explains this. He asks the rhetorical question, how is it possible that they were afraid of Kamsa? Is there any contradiction in these statements? And then he kind of like brings it out that actually he wasn't afraid of Kamsa, but because of his love for Vasudeva, he puts himself he appears to be afraid of Kamsa in order to relish a relationship with his devotees in this way. And this is often misunderstood by non-devotees. For instance, Jarasandha, who literally got defeated by Krishna, 18 or 28? 19 times in a row. I think it was 18 times at first, and then finally... after 18 times, Krishna's he's running away, and then Jarasandha is thinking, oh, look, he's so scared of me, So you got defeated 18 times, and he still spared you. You're lucky you're not dead, And then, still he's thinking, look, Krishna's afraid of me. So Kamsa was probably also thinking like that. Of course, later on, right before Krishna shows up to the arena, the wrestling arena, Kamsa starts revealing his mind. It's like, oh man, I think this is it for me. He kind of started to realize it. But even while Krishna was killing all of his demon friends, Kamsa was still puffed up and thinking, what is this, boy in this village? Who, anyways. But how is Krishna? How can he become fearful? Matsya Prabhu, you probably know this verse. The definition of fear given in the Bhagavatam, 11th canto. Bhayam Dutiya, what is it? Bini. Yeah. Anyways, the meaning is basically that fear arises because of one's misidentification with the body, misidentification with the material world, this duality. For one who is not in this duality, then he can't be in fear. This is one of the principles. This is one of the features of a stitadhi muni given by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita. I think 2nd chapter. What is that? Vita raga bhaya krodha stitadhi munir uchyate. That's the second half of the verse. There's the first half. I forget. For one who is firmly fixed in intelligence, or stita prajna, for one who is transcendentally situated, Krishna is giving the different features of such a person, and some of these features is vita, raga, bhaya, krodha. So vita means without, and then of course we have raga means attachment, mundane attachment, bhaya meaning fear, and then krodha, anger. So a spiritual person, a person who is stita prajna, situated on transcendental platform, he can't be fearful. And there's this very nice song, is Abhaya Charanara Vinda Re, Govinda Das prays that, oh mind, please just worship, Radha and Krishna. Upon worshiping them, then, one becomes completely fearless, being situated at the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord. Abhaya Charanara Vinda. This is also the name given to Srila Prabhupada by his spiritual master, his Harinam Diksha name, Abhay Charanara Vinda, which means Abhay Charanara Vinda Das means that one who, being a servant of the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, has become completely abhaya, completely fearless. So how can we be worshiping somebody, and the result of worshiping that person, naturally they become fearless, how can that person have the quality of fear? We worship someone, we worship someone to develop their qualities, or naturally that's just what happens. We might not do it for that reason, but naturally that's what happens. Upon worshiping Krishna, then we develop the same qualities of Krishna. Actually, eternally we have the same qualities as Krishna, but not in the same quantity. But similarly, whenever we worship big demons and basketball players and stuff like that, and ghosts, and you might get something, like this Sai Baba nonsense, they might get he might make some ashes or some useless, even like a gold watch or something like that. But because he doesn't have love of God, you're not going to get any love of God either, nor are the people worshiping him interested in getting love of God. But anyways, it's how is it that one of the symptoms of being a pure devotee and being transcendentally situated is that you're without fear whenever that person who you're worshiping is exhibiting fear sometimes. Actually, he's not. He's never fearful. He's never actually, he's not, he's at least in a mundane way. But like I was saying, like how Prabhupada is bringing out, he exhibits this quality just for the sake of increasing the relationships with his devotees. So, anyways, honor thy mother and thy father, and become fearless by worshiping the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, I'll just finish there. If anybody has any questions, comments, corrections, I always worry even when Mahos is not here, he's going to call in and make a correction. You never get away from it. Anybody?
Prabhu, regarding this point of following Dharma when it comes to your parents, and I've heard I kind of have a mixed understanding, you say, because I've also heard different things. I think it was a Prabhupada disciple. I'm really bad at when it comes to the anecdotes, but something he wanted his parents were ill or something like that. And he wanted to see him, and Prabhupada basically told him there was no need or something like that. It's best just to be in his service, and obviously we have to know for instance, some people they think that Krishna conscious, it means we're trying to be transcendental. So some people have that conception there's no need for varnashram, and but obviously that's not the case. There are conditioned souls, and so I guess it applies for that. One can say I guess if you have the audit card, you can completely renounce your family and whatever happens, whatever. I'm if you have the audit card, but it seems there is scope to having some a responsibility for your dharma, we're worldly dharma, whatever you want to call it. But it also seems that where do you draw the line? Because you may have a beef eating, meat eating, father who's just and you don't want to live with that kind of person, take care of them.
Yeah.
So where do you draw the line?
Thank you for asking this, because I completely didn't even talk about what it means to actually serve your parents and what it means to cancel the indebtedness that we have for our parents. For a devotee, it's not that we go and just serve their sins gratification and increase their sins gratification like that. Yeah. I mean, it's there is a verse that I don't know, which basically says that although one is indebted to all these different living entities, and although one, according to Dharma, must perform these different yajnas and everything, for a devotee, he's not indebted to anybody. Yeah. And his only it's the same thing, watering the roots of a tree, and then naturally everything else is nourished. So the proper way for a devotee, and specifically for a young man in the brahmachari ashram, the proper way to really, if you really want to benefit your family, become serious in Krishna consciousness, become a pure devotee, and that's the best thing that you can possibly do for them. You can give them prasadam, you can invite them, you can create a very nice relationship with them, or maintain a very nice relationship with them, despite that you're living in the temple now and everything like that. Of course, it'll be really difficult, even in the most dharmic families. I know some devotees, they're growing up in such a pious family, and then still they have so many problems because they want to be a brahmachari, and their parents are just not willing to accept it, for years and years and years and years. You know, it's in a lot of ways it's easier for, you know, coming from like Western family. And it's just like, okay, you're happy, we're happy, you know, we'll come and see, you know, whatever. But yeah, that's the real way of like really like of serving one's family, is to become fully Krishna conscious. Because in different places and there's different statements about for a pure devotee, sometimes 7 generations, sometimes 14 generations of their family are liberated. I just read recently that in a family where a pure devotee is born, then 100 generations are purified. It doesn't say liberated, but they're purified. And like the whole area of land where a pure devotee is born becomes purified. You know, it's really, really powerful thing if you just become a pure devotee. And becoming a pure devotee also means being a responsible person, being a gentleman, being a dutiful person. You know, like these are qualities that just naturally come. But it's not that we're trying to cultivate these qualities separately from cultivating pure devotion from Krishna, for Krishna. So by becoming a pure devotee, naturally, all of your indebtedness to all the Pitris and the Bhutas and the Rishis and all these are nullified, and one's real dharma is sarva dharman parityajya mamekam sharanam braja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishyami ma shuchaha. That's another good instance, ma shucha. If one just does this, then all fear, you know, do not fear, ma shucha. So this is the instruction of Krishna. This is like the ideal. And like you're saying, it's not possible for everybody to do it prematurely. I mean, it was really common, especially earlier in the movement, specifically with the sannyas ashram. It's prematurely getting into it, even though they're not qualified, not ready for it, and everything like that. So much service can be done, but then the aftermath of it is devastating. You know, similarly, like we can like neglect all of our material duties, and you know, if you're on that level and you don't have any attachment for it and you're never going to go back, then, you know, go for it, you know. But only under the guidance of devotees who can tell you if you are qualified and tell you if you're able to do that type of thing, you know. Like sometimes devotees are recommended to drop out of school, quit their job, you know, like shave their head right, you know, today, you know, like pick them off the streets and, you know, join up. Some devotees, okay, anyways, you got one more year of school left. You know, you have a job right now, you have some debts and you have to make some money. Okay, why don't you finish that up? So like it takes guidance, and that's ultimately what it is. You have to act according to like guidance from senior devotees and everything like that. But yeah, thank you for mentioning that, because I forgot to mention the whole essence of the whole thing is just become a devotee, and then your indebtedness to your parents is just naturally taken care of. And they might not understand it even in this whole lifetime. They might go their whole lifetime being bitter about the fact that their son became a Hare Krishna. But you know, they'll be thanking you later. See you in Vaikuntha, you know, like so yeah, I mean, we can only hope for that. That's the best bet, is if we can just become a pure devotee, and our family can also get the mercy of Lord Chaitanya. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Guruji.
Hare Krishna, Matsya Prabhu, can you hear me?
Yes, kind of.
Just give the phone to him so he can put it.
Okay, I have the phone and you're on the speaker.
Okay, so do you just quote Devasi Bhutata Niram Pitrinam?
I quoted the English. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's a very important point to understand. You know, I'm glad Abhi brought it up also.
Yeah.
But you know, we should see. You know, so like, you know, using this as an example, so many people never surrender. Oh, you know, like, I have to take care of my parents. But to a degree where it becomes Maya. Wherein like the mother is criticizing the guru, still we keep attachment to the mother. You know, like the guru is telling something, the mother is telling something, we listen to what our mother says. Instead of what the guru says. This is all nonsense. You know, that there needs to be some level of detachment that needs to develop. Some people are overly concerned of their family and always thinking about the family. And even after you join the ashram, you're always thinking about the family. and what the mother says and what the sister says and what the other person may think. This is not a sign of actually renouncing. It's actually a sign of going back into that ashram again. So a person should be, when they renounce, they should understand what it means to be renounced. Because so much some devotees, they just like contact their parents so much. It's really like that's actually not good, especially that parents aren't like fixed up devotees. It's not good. And one wants to be very mindful of that. And anyway, that's a whole other topic. But also Krishna defeated Jarasandha 17 times. Not 19 or 28 times. And the 18th time, he fled.
Uh-huh.
And Prajapati Daksha first had 10,000 sons called Haryashvas, and the second batch was 1,000 sons called Shavalashvas.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So anyways,
Yeah, thank you for
say
that.
that. Okay, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, really important point that I didn't mention. It's really easy to read like a purport like that that I read in the Bhagavad Gita, and just justify staying with this mundane attachment for family. But this, it has to be understood in the context, and it has to be understood in a very Krishna conscious way, or else not only will you be in Maya in family life, you'll be like a Maya body too, because you're saying that you're serving your mother and you're serving Krishna. It's just nonsense. This is like Hindu shmindu nonsense that we get all the time. Why do I have to give you donation? I will give to Burger King, and that is also Krishna. Like it's crazy some of the things that we hear. Isn't it also Krishna? Usually they're not so impious that they'll talk about Burger King or something, but they'll say, I'm already giving to this temple. And I was like, oh, why don't you give to this temple? Well, temple is temple,
Yeah, there's Hindu Mata in the airport. I was like, yeah, it's like Dharma. If a brahmachari asks for like dakshin, you should give it to him. And she was like, I follow the Dharma within my heart. I was like, that's gonna bring you to hell. She's like, you want me to call the cops? I'm like, yeah, okay, never mind.
Yeah. Anyways, anybody else have a question over here? Anybody on this side? No? Oh, you got something?
When you said the 7 generations of the family, they still need to go through the process, right? Or is it?
Repeat it.
Oh, I see. You were mentioning about the family on both sides, like, get liberated if you're a pure devotee. But doesn't that mean they need to go through the process and kind of develop that consciousness?
Not necessarily. So there's like Nitya Siddhas. Anyways, there's Nitya Siddhas who are just eternally perfect living entities who never fall down. And then there's Nitya Buddhas. Not Buddhas. We've been messing with Mason the past few days. There's Nitya Buddha, eternally bound, eternally conditioned. And then among those Nitya Buddhas, there's the opportunity for one to become a sadhana siddha, which is one who follows the process, follows the injunctions in Shastra, and in this way he's able to go back to Godhead. And then there's also the Kripa Siddhis, the Kripa Siddhas, which are just by the mercy of the Lord, the mercy of the Guru, mercy of the devotees, they're able to go back to the spiritual world.
Does their consciousness just change like that? Where they can, let's say they're
I don't know how it works. I really don't know how it works, but the mercy, that's the only explanation. They get the mercy, and then, you can understand that just because of their relationship with a devotee, a pure devotee, just because somehow or other they were fortunate enough to, like, it's kind of like, straws floating in a river, they come together, although it's always changing and everything, just because at one point they were there with that one pure devotee, then that's for their eternal benefit. It's the same type of thing for literally anybody who even saw Prabhupada on the TV or walking in the street. I think it's Ravindra Swarup Prabhu who saw Prabhupada before Prabhupada started ISKCON, before Prabhupada really started his whole preaching mission. He saw him walking on the university campus in Pittsburgh or something, I forget what exactly was going on. He saw a Swami walking in the streets. Later on, years later, he got initiated. He became a devotee and everything like that. But talks about how that made such a deep impression on him. Even if it doesn't make a deep impression on you right then and there, you still get the benefit from just having your eyes, the perfection of your eyes, finally you get to see the pure devotee of the Lord, So same thing with your parents, your family. They might not appreciate it right now. They might go many lifetimes without appreciating it, but then just because at one point in time they had it, inevitably your parents did so much service for you. And you might not have even been a pure devotee when they were doing service for you, but, Krishna still gives them credit. Krishna still gives them credit, for treating a pure devotee so nicely, So yeah, I don't. As far as how it works or why it works, it's just mercy. I don't know. Anything over here? Yes, she has a. You can just put the mic on the floor in front of her.
I just remembered, I've been rewatching Following Srila Prabhupada, and in the beginning, one of Prabhupada's first visits to England, I don't know if it was London, but anyways, it was a pastime, I don't remember the devotee's name, but a devotee was recalling how he was telling Prabhupada, that I want to go and preach to my brother, and I want to try and make him a devotee, and Prabhupada told him, you have to save yourself first.
Yeah. The highest realization is to save oneself first. That's the main thing. If it's putting your spiritual life at jeopardy to try to make other people Krishna conscious, then forget about it. Lord Chaitanya gives the instruction. What is that verse? Anyways, I'm really bad with the Bengali shlokas. First make your life perfect by becoming Krishna conscious, and then Manusya Janmasa Para Upakar. Anyways, you first become Krishna conscious, and then you deliver this land by preaching Krishna consciousness. Of course, we don't want to have this maya of saying, I can't go and distribute books because I need to first become a pure devotee. That's just complete nonsense, The act of spreading Krishna consciousness also helps us in our spiritual life. In most cases, specifically with distributing Prabhupada's books, you practically can't go wrong with it. And also, you're not the one preaching either. Prabhupada's the one preaching through his books. So, we're not thinking we're out there delivering the whole world, but, we're trying to make our life successful by becoming Krishna conscious. And part of the becoming Krishna conscious is it involves preaching. That's just kind of the process given. But in certain, of course, I wouldn't want to go home with the mission of trying to make my family Krishna conscious. I'd go crazy, and they wouldn't be Krishna conscious, and I wouldn't be Krishna conscious. So, yeah. Okay, anything else? Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila